Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the polls. Huskers Nation brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. They are your local concrete and retaining wall experts. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, carrikerchronicles.com. It's where all your Husker sports hopes and dreams will come true, ladies and gentlemen. It's just science. All right. So I wrote down on this paper, I said, I don't care what the score is. I just want Nebraska to win. Well, by God, that about bit me in the butt. Okay, but if you're glad, like I am, that Nebraska beat Purdue and showed late a little bit of what we're capable of. We showed what we're capable of early on as well, and that wasn't so phenomenally phenomenal for about 2.5 quarters. But if you're glad we got the win, and Nebraska, we got the win. If you're happy about that, like I am, and we showed late kind of what we're capable of, we obviously got things to work on to smash that like button. As always, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of the content that we're putting out. This is my gut reaction to Nebraska's ugly yet beautiful. Can I say beautiful? We won. Ugly yet beautiful win over Purdue. If you missed my last show, go check it out. It's an interview with Christian Jones. And as always on Sunday night, I'll be putting out a full breakdown of Nebraska's game and my thoughts on the next game in the season going forward on YouTube at 6 p.m. Central Time. All right, the Black Shirts needed a bounce back game. We all knew that. They played much better today. I know they gave up the late touchdown, but overall, they had 5 sacks. Last time I looked, they were giving up 1.6 yards per carry. All right, to Purdue. Now, granted, Purdue's not a great game, but when you think back to the Illinois game, the Fighting Illini averaged 5.5 yards per carry on 19 first down rushes. They had to do better. All right, this was like a get-right game, a bounce-back game, however you want to phrase it. Multiple sources reported on Friday that Micah Mazuka was on a flight to San Francisco, so missing a couple of offensive linemen with Turner Corcoran being out as well. Now, Purdue, not a good rush defense. And there was a portion of this game where I was going to lose my mind because we weren't running the ball better, but we also weren't running the ball more, and we weren't running it better because we weren't blocking well. Okay, finally later on, we started to assert the power game just a smidge, and Ja'Cory Barney is a heck of a playmaker on those jet sweeps. We'll get to that. Purdue has allowed a total of 42 first downs coming into today's game via the run. Okay, all right, in the first 3 games alone. All right, the next closest team was 29 first downs allowed via the run by Minnesota, and that was through their first 4 games. The Boilermakers had also allowed 10 rushing touchdowns, the most in the Big Ten. The next closest in the Big Ten was 6 by Oregon and Wisconsin, and Purdue only one of 3 teams in the Big Ten that are not forced to fumble all year as well. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I was so intrigued by this game because this game should not be close. We are so much more talented, so should be so much better than Purdue, but how is Nebraska going to bounce back? It was a rough loss. It was a rough week. It's a morning game. You get up at 6 a.m. for these 11 a.m. kickoffs. And when you're used to 3 night games, how are you going to respond? There was a lot of things that I was intrigued by in this game. And then you saw why. You saw ugly football. Oh, my God, football for about 2.5. I don't think I've ever used that phrase. Oh, my God, football for about 2.5 quarters. And then when we woke up, and I actually put out on social media, did Nebraska just wake up? And then we went on 3 straight scoring drives. Okay, where we scored 3 touchdowns in a row, but I digress. Okay, I want to read something from Marcus Satterfield that he had put out earlier this week when it came to running the ball. He said, and I quote, "We have to run the ball to get yards and move the football, but we have to run the ball because the way we want to play and the way we want to win in games is we want to win in the 4th quarter. We want to get body blows for 4 quarters and try to make our opponent quit. The style of runs and the amount of runs that we were getting, I've got to get more of them and create different angles, especially against defenses like Illinois and teams that we're going to play down the road because they're always going to have extra hats in the box." There was also this clip from Matt Rule, his press conference earlier this week. He talks about learning about yourself through adversity and how to win on the road and trying to see how Nebraska was going to bounce back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's something else that a lot of us saw before the game that you don't see a lot. You see individual drills. You see warm-up drills. You go offense versus defense, usually a scout team on one side, and it's about 85, 80, 70% because you're getting warm. Matt Rule had them going full go 100% Oklahoma drill. And we're going to roll that clip now. Now, why would a coach do something like this? It's obvious. He didn't feel his team was awake. The 11 a.m. kickoff, the 6 a.m. wake-up call, the first road game of the year, he clearly didn't feel like his team was awake. It's much like the Michigan game last year, which got really ugly, and then on Sunday when you normally run and lift and watch film and you kind of let your body recover. No. They came in and they had a full day of scrimmage. He was sending a message to the team. He could tell the team wasn't awake. And you could see for about 2.5 quarters, Nebraska wasn't awake. He was trying to wake up his team. I've seen that happen one other time in my life. My senior year, my last game of the year, our team wasn't awake, and our coach did something similar. All right, now, heading into this game, again, I had a lot of questions. How is Nebraska going to respond? What were we going to look like? We should clearly be better, but would the score follow? Would our play indicate the same thing? And if you watched the game, you saw I had all these question marks. But Dante Dowdell seems to be the guy coming into the game today. And then you watch today's game, and all of a sudden Emmett Johnson's getting more carries. Dante seems to be the guy in the backfield, but at some point, one or two guys really has to separate. It's this carousel of running backs and then putting Carter Nelson back there on the goal line. I'll get to that in a minute. Dowdell had more rushes than the other 3 running backs combined coming into today's game. 51 carries. Ramir Johnson, Emmett Johnson, and Gabe Irvin had 50 combined carries between the 3 of them. Dowdell, 256 rush yards, 3 TDs coming into the game today. And the other 3 running backs had 261 yards and 3 touchdowns combined between the 3 of them. All right, now Dylan Raiola, if you want something very positive, okay, he right now is the biggest reason for optimism going forward, and our defense appears to have maybe played a little bit better today. They did play better today, but can they do it going forward and make the adjustments going forward against tougher competition? But Dylan Raiola is kind of the biggest reason for optimism right now as we sit here 4-1. Keep that in mind. He's the 4th leading passer coming in today's contest. I'll update that on my Sunday night show to see where he's at. Okay, in the Big Ten Conference, 967 pass yards so far on the season. Now, at left tackle, Gunnar Gatula got the start. Okay, and today's captains for the game were Thomas Fedoni, Isaiah Garcia-Castaneda, Malcolm Hartzog, and Javin. Right now, the Huskers' first drive was a punt. They reached Purdue's 34-yard line. After 2 runs and a short pass and 3 incompletions by Raiola, they punt. They did fail to pin Purdue deep. Now, the Boilermakers' first drive was a 3-and-out forced by the Blackshirts. The Huskers' next drive, when they got the ball back, went into Purdue's territory again. Nebraska, 4th and 1. We're going to go for it. Bryce Benhart has the false start, goes to 4 and 6, and then the special teams, how do I be kind? Entertainment? Oh, there we go. Entertainment, I'll call it, to be kind. Begins. John Hull comes out but missed the field goal. The snap looked good. The hold looked good on this particular kick. Not been the case so far this year at certain points. Not the case later in the game at certain points. Okay. And those are simple operations that should be simple. I don't know how else to put that, but we'll come back to that as well. All right. These are things that have plagued Nebraska at times so far this year. Now, Matt Rule did talk about how John Hull, his 50-yard field goals during camp were one of the highlights of camp. This kid has a big leg. The Lincoln Southwest grad has the potential to be a really good kicker. Young guy, much like Tristan Alvano. Hopefully he can get back quicker, sooner than later as well. Now, Purdue's next drive. Go fairly deep into Nebraska territory. There was a few leaks on the Blackshirts' defense. The Blackshirts have been allowing 402.3 total yards per game coming into today's contest, but the Boilermakers miss a 39-yard field goal. At least they're not great at special teams either. At least it appeared at this point. We end the first quarter tied 0-0 with Nebraska having the ball to start the second quarter. The Huskers start the second quarter going forward on 4th and 3 at Purdue's 22-yard line and convert a pass for a touchdown. I'm like, all right, here we go. Yes. Convert the 4th, get the touchdown, and then brought back by an offensive pass interference call. I'll be honest with you. It seemed like a bad call. Matt Rule was pretty heated. Fedoni literally tried to avoid the defender as he's coming across the middle. They're rub routes. It's supposed to make it hard for man-to-man coverage in particular to stay with your guy. That's kind of the idea. But you can't directly run into somebody. That's illegal, even though offenses do it all the time. But if you watch Fedoni, he literally tries to get out of the way. It was hard to tell if he even touched him. But it calls the touchdown back. Okay, this was the second 4th down, negated by a penalty. And so far already, we left a ton of points on the field today. It's already cost us anywhere from 10 to 14 points. The Huskers have had a couple of good drives, but points are being left on the field. And I just made a note. This is like a weird game so far. I don't know how else to define it. Okay, a few minutes later with 9:36 left in the second quarter, Nebraska has a field goal blocked. I mean, all right, we've had a chance to score about every time we've touched the ball so far is what I've wrote at this point. But it's still 0-0. I'd like to see us run the ball more versus Purdue. Now, I put this out on social media, and people were like, are you not watching? Our offensive line is not blocking. They were not blocking well. They were not playing well. I'd also like to see more power runs up the middle. I feel like there's a little bit too gadgety at times, but that's just me. But later on, we went to the power game, and it worked a little bit better. And Nebraska actually, last time I looked, late in the fourth quarter, with like a minute to go, was averaging 5 yards per carry. That was most of what we did in the second half, not the first half, because they finally made some good halftime adjustments And we did much better in the run game in the second half and what they were trying to do within the run game as well. But Purdue's run defense coming into today, worst in the Big Ten, and 131st ranked rush defense in America. But I made the note the offensive line to that point was just not blocking very well. Purdue's next possession, the Boilermakers appear to take a 7-0 lead on a long TD pass, but it's called back due to multiple penalties on Purdue. Purdue's fans were going crazy. This was an ugly game. Penalties, special teams, just ugly all around. Okay, ugly, but beautiful for us because we won. And frankly, that's all I give a crap about right now. All right, I wrote, this has been a very eventful ball game for being 0-0. It wasn't boring to watch. There just wasn't a lot of points at this point. And here's an odd stat alert. All right, odd stat alert. Purdue has had 5 pass interference calls so far this game. I know they had at least 6, maybe 7 by the end of the game. All right, now 4 on defense, 1 on offense at that point. Also, a random fan on the field has made 2 of 3 field goals. I noticed that as well. Make him an offer, just saying. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, DPS Concrete Construction. They are your local concrete experts. They are your retaining wall experts. If you're in the Omaha metro area and you need work done, call these guys. If this is your line of work and you're looking for a great boss, a great company, and you just want to do what you do and you want to work for someone who does a great job as well, go to dpsconstruction.net. Also, Allen Capital Group, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know by now, they've been doing my family's finances for over a decade. I sleep so much better at night knowing that my family's finances are in good hands. Probably the number one stressor in most people's lives is finances. Take that stress off the table. Put your finances in good people, trustworthy, knowledgeable people's hands. Allen Capital Group. Check them out at allencapgroup.com. That's ALLENCAP group.com. They have offices in Grand Island, Ogallala, Omaha. Okay, Allen Capital Group. Next level solution for next level needs. All right, here's what I wrote. We are sleepwalking. It's an ugly game. It's hard to watch. You got to keep in mind, it was like 0-0 at this point. So you're kind of going through the game with me as I'm making notes throughout the game. I know the outcome now, okay? But I said this reminds me of, oh wow, I wrote this. This reminds me of watching Scott Frost type coach teams. Purdue is not good. We should win easy. And I had like all caps and I underlined it. I don't know if you can see that. All right, at this point, I was getting bombarded with text during the game. And here are some of the texts I got. And I quote, this is hard to watch. And I quote, no bowl game again. And several other things. We're going to a bowl game. And if we don't, wow, but we will, etc. Now, Nebraska tried another field goal before half. It did not go well. Again, bad snap. The snap and hold of the field goal kicking game is stuff you worry about in middle school. Okay? It's not stuff you worry about at the University of Nebraska. Not acceptable. And they switched long snappers in the middle of the game after we already switched our starter at an earlier point this year at long snapper. All right, I'm not saying it's easy, but this is not something that should be this concerning at this level. All right, Huskers, 6 drives, all 6 of their first half drives went in Purdue territory with 0 points. It was 0-0 at halftime, and that's the first Purdue game, football game, to go 0-0 at halftime since they played Notre Dame in 1993. Here are the halftime stats. And the final stats were just as lopsided in our favor. Luckily, the score was a lot more in our favor at that point as well. But at halftime, total yards, Nebraska 210, Purdue 89. First downs, Nebraska 14, Purdue 4. Third down efficiency, both teams were combined 1 for 12, so that was just ugly all around at that point. Pass yards, 161 good guys, 52 bad guys. Rush yards, 49 for Nebraska, 37 for Purdue. Yards per rush, 3.8 for Nebraska, 2.5 for Purdue. Penalties, we had 5, they had 7. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're the better team. I knew that coming in. I didn't know if we'd play like the better team. I really thought we'd win. I predicted us to win by like 2 scores, so I wasn't too far off. It was a 14-point differential I predicted, but I really didn't know what would happen. How is this team going to respond? What were they going to do on the road, early kick, etc., etc.? How are they going to respond to adversity? They've been hearing for months how great they are, and you're going to go 77-0 because your schedule is easy until you play Ohio State. And then, bam, another 1-score loss, another loss to a ranked team. How are they going to respond? By the way, it was a 1-score game going into the 4th quarter, and Nebraska won. That should be pointed out. All right. So here's what I wrote at this point. I said, so far this game, this is how a team that's better loses to a team that they should beat. Obviously, we ended up winning the game, but these are my thoughts at halftime. Purdue isn't good, but black shirts are playing better. Obviously, they played better as an overall whole. only allowing 3 yards per play so far. Halftime final thought, we have to win this game. I was just like, if we lose, are you kidding me? This was a must win for Nebraska. I don't care how we do it or what the score is. Obviously, we know that now. But this is a must win for Nebraska. And thank God we got the win. And we did. We showed we got to get better. And we showed what we're capable of later on. I don't know what to make of this team. That's part of the fun. All right. Oh, yeah. Along with 3 missed field goals, or 3 field goals that didn't go our way, all 3 of them. There was also 3 Nebraska punts inside Purdue territory. In other words, we had the ball, couldn't get any points on the board, and we punted while we're inside Purdue's territory along with the 3 field goals that went awry. Those were our first 6 drives of the game. All right, second half is starting. How are our second half adjustments going to be? Okay, the Boilermakers opening drive in the second half, 13 plays, 55 yards, 8:08 off the clock, and they make a 45-yard field goal, go up 3-0. That was the longest drive of Ryan Walters. He's in his second year at Purdue, his tenure with the Boilermakers. All right. This game reminds me of the 2021 Michigan State game. That's what I wrote at this point. I should mention Brian Buscini has played well so far today. Good or bad, he's currently tied for the team lead in tackles with 3 at this moment in time. Nebraska running the ball so far, 19 rushes, 80 yards, nearly half of that to Ja'Cory Barney. Dylan's a true freshman. Ja'Cory's a true freshman. Carter Nelson's a true freshman. There's a lot of young talent on this team. So let's just keep that in mind. All right, the Huskers respond the next drive. Just under 4 minutes was the drive with 2:39 left in the third quarter. Dylan Raiola hits Jamal Banks on a 3rd and goal from Purdue's 6-yard line with a go-ahead TD pass. The Huskers are up 7-3, and the Huskers never look back. Literally, this is like when they woke up, was right at this moment in time. All right, Purdue's next drive cut short by the black shirts swarming Purdue's quarterback on 3rd down and getting the sack. And I even wrote, is Nebraska starting to wake up? The Huskers' next drive, they drive right down the field for I can't read my own writing, but basically they take the lead. They score a touchdown, 14-3 with 10:34 left in the fourth quarter. I should mention that Dante Dowdell ran the ball on 4th and goal from just outside Purdue's end zone. I love the play call. It was power I. It was inside power to the right. It was Dante Dowdell, our power back, and 4th and goal. We're just going to run it right at you. We're going to take the ball in the end zone. Nothing you can do about it. I love that. I hated the 3rd down call. Here's what I wrote. Didn't love the 3rd down play call with tight end Carter Nelson, who was a high jumper in high school, freak athlete, at running back and tried to jump over the top. To me, that's overthinking. That's overcoaching. You got 4 good running backs back there. They're already not getting enough play time because there's 4 of them. And you got 2 power backs, Dante Dowdell and Gabe Irvin. Finally, the next play, we lined up, like we should, put the correct guy at running back and ran the ball down their throats and up the rear into the end zone, as opposed to, I've never been a fan of leaping anyways. You lose all your power. Okay, but you got enough good backs. You don't have to put Carter back there despite his freak athleticism. All right. And then, let's see. I should mention, you get the sense that Matt Rule's sick of the Big Ten officials. He was hot at them several times today, and he even got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty called on him at one point. All right, do you blame him? I don't know. Do you blame him? All right, the Huskers' next drive, another touchdown drive. 3 touchdowns in their last 3 drives. 6:13 left in the fourth quarter. True freshman Ja'Cory Barney scores on a 25-yard speed sweep handoff. Ja'Cory, his 5th play of 10 yards or more today. Nebraska leads 21-3. Then, bam, like 1 or 2 plays later, Nebraska's best defensive player of the year so far, in my humble opinion, John Bullock, a pick 6. Nebraska leads 28-3. Obviously, Purdue gets a touchdown late in the game. We know the final score as well. Now, this is the score. This is how the score should have looked. Is this how the game as an overall whole should have looked? No, but we found a way to win. We found a way to show what we could do. We got things to work on. There's no doubt about it. But I will take this ugly, because we won, beautiful Husker win. All right, let me see my final thoughts. I'm happy we finally woke up. We're capable of looking like Scott Frost is still coaching us. We're also capable of being pretty good. Who are we? I don't know. Let's find out together, ladies and gentlemen. We won. That's all that matters. Again, check out CarrikerChronicles.com. All right, we got all sorts of merch. We got game photos. We got articles and shows that'll be going up right after this game. You can check out all the game reaction. Let me know your answer to these questions in the comments below. Number 1, do you feel like Nebraska got back on track with this game? Number 2, how concerned are you with the special teams? All right, and number 3, all our goals are still in front of us. Did Nebraska, in a weird way, just saved their season? Because imagine if we'd have lost. Until next time, go Big Red. And always remember,